Record. Okay, so my name is Karen Batty, and tonight is part of the new consultant training program that we have. This is one of two trainings that we recommend for all new people who would want to get off to a strong start, which we assume is everyone. Tonight is called Business Basics. We're going to cover sort of behind-the-scenes stuff that goes into a successful Pampered Chef business. The second training that we offer is called the Cooking Show Training Night. That is what it sounds like. Everything about the cooking show from the time you walk into the house until you leave. It covers products, it covers how to inspire people to want to have parties of their own, how to pique interest about the business, as well as processing orders and the host rewards program. So that's that training. If you haven't attended that yet, you'll want to contact your director to find out when that's being offered. And tonight is called Business Basics. Like I said, it's all the behind-the-scenes stuff that goes into a successful Pampered Chef business. Now, people often ask me when they're new, okay, so what does it take to be successful? And sometimes people wrongly attribute it to personality. They look at the person who did the party that they attended, and they think, oh, I have to be like them. So if Michelle Weinstein was your director, you might think, oh my goodness, I need to have in-depth product knowledge because that's what she's got. You might attend David Sirota's show and think, oh my goodness, I need to be super funny because that's him. You might attend my show and think I need to be crazy because this lady's a lunatic. I don't know. But it's really not at all about personality. You just need to be yourself. But there are some things that all successful consultants have in common. And what's great is it's all learnable. Some people come to the business with certain things already in place or certain things that come naturally to them. Most people have a few things that they need to work on to just tweak to get up to where they want to be. But every bit of it is learnable. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is a concept called the belief circle. And Lacey, you probably can't see this, but in this circle there are three words. At the top it says belief, and then down on the right-hand side or left-hand side it says actions, and then around the right-hand side it says results. And it's just this continuous circle. And what this means is what we believe and what we tell ourselves really matter. Have you ever heard that quote, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right? I think that was Henry Ford who said that. But basically what this tells us is, that what we believe to a great degree determines the actions that we take. And the actions that we take to a great degree determine the results we get. And then the results reinforce our belief. So if you talk to successful consultants, they all have the belief that we've got great products that people need and want in their home. They believe that our host reward program is fantastic, and who wouldn't want to have a party to get a great shopping spree? And they believe, of course, I can hold a consistent show schedule and have a consistent paycheck because they've been doing it. So you might think you need that belief to get the ball rolling, but the truth is it's a circle, and you're allowed to jump in anywhere you want in that circle. Most new people have maybe a little bit of belief, like, oh gosh, I love the products and I love the host rewards program. But the belief that they can be one of the successful people in this business, most people do not come to this business with that belief. And even the successful people probably didn't come to this business with that belief, because this business is very different than what most people have ever considered. People don't sit there and, when they're 5 and 6 years old and say, I want to be a home party lady when I grow up, or I'm going to go to school for that. No, they usually, aspire to do other things and end up doing this for, who knows, a whole array of reasons. But the bottom line is most successful people just jumped in on actions, because there are tried and true paths that we're going to teach you. And if you jump in on the actions, what happens is you get the results. And then when you get the results, you go, oh my gosh, they're right. I believe it now too. And then you have the belief, and it's much easier to take those actions. So I hope you all decide to just kind of jump in on the action part of this business. The next thing I want to talk to you about is what I was told was called the success model, or what most people think of as the success model. And Lisa, you can't see the paper that I'm holding up, but basically what it says is here we are standing in the middle in time and space, and over to one side of us is success, and on the other side is failure. And this is what most people kind of think of as the success model. They're thinking, okay, somewhere out there is success and somewhere out there is failure. Only it's as if someone put a blindfold on us and spun us around, and we're playing pin the tail on the donkey, and we're not quite sure which way success is. So what often happens is then you hear an idea that worked for someone else, and you say, oh, okay, I'll give that a try. I'll give it a little try. I'll put my toe in the water and give that a try. And what often happens is you don't get the desired result right away, or it feels a little awkward because you've never done it before. So it doesn't feel like success. So we think, well, then it must be failure, and we retreat. And then we hear another idea, and we put our toe in the water, and we try it out a little bit, and again, it feels a little awkward because it's not something we've ever tried before, and so we think, oh, that must be failure, and then we retreat. And all of a sudden, we can try a few things, and all of a sudden we can be sort of paralyzed, standing there thinking, okay, every time I try to reach out, I feel like I'm not finding success, so therefore it must be failure, and now we just don't even know where to turn. But that actually is not the real success model. Here is the real deal. We are on one side, success is on the other, and in the center is the learning curve. Okay? So when you hear an idea that we recommend is tried and true over decades, you don't want to just put your toe in the water. You want to really try it enough so that you give it enough of a chance to, first of all, sort of make it your own. Because, when you first try an idea, you're kind of trying it the way you heard it, and it might not be totally your style. But, you try it enough, and you get through that learning curve, and all of a sudden it becomes a whole lot easier. I mean, think about anything you've been successful in your business, in your life. Anybody got something they want to share that they've been successful in?
I actually I worked, it was years ago, for a newspaper, like local group of 5 newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
And I started out as just like a sales assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched day in, day out, I was probably making, I don't know, $10 an hour maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and was watching all these sales reps making money like crazy. And I was like, wait a minute, I can totally do what they do. And I don't know why, so I just had to close my eyes and jump in. And I didn't know, I knew about it, but I've never done sales,
Well, you had a little bit of belief, and then you jumped into the action.
Yeah, and then I ended up doing really, really well.
Did it all go perfectly?
No.
No. But you stuck with it.
I stuck with it, and I ended up being one of the top salespeople for the company. So it was,
right.
Yeah.
But if you took off after the first mistake, would you have been successful? No,
absolutely.
And you know what? It's not just in work. It's everything. I mean, when you think of learning a foreign language, of course you're going to get some things wrong. When you're learning how to knit, all of a sudden my first thing that I made knitting, it went in like this and went out like this. I'm like, well, this whole tension thing apparently matters, and but I gave up knitting, so I never became a good knitter. But anything that we want, that is really important to us, there is a learning curve. And even a baby learning how to walk. I mean, think about if every child who fell once or twice said, that's it, I am just not meant to walk. I tried it. It didn't work for me. Every baby needs to learn how to fall. And falling is not failing. Falling is an integral part of learning how to walk. You can't learn how to walk without falling a little bit, because a child needs to learn depth perception and balance. And the only way to do that is to get it wrong so that you can figure out how to get it right. So this business has a little bit of that in it. You're going to try some things that are going to feel a little awkward, a little funny. You're going to make mistakes in front of family and friends. It's going to happen. You're going to hear about it at Thanksgiving and Christmas and everything else, But it's all good because you're learning as you go. And the nice thing is perfection in this business is not a necessary ingredient in being successful. Perfect and success perfection is not at all required to be successful. If you've ever seen one of my parties, even now I'm on, almost show number 2000, you'd think I'd get it down by now, but I make mistakes at every party I do, but we have fun and we laugh. And one of the things about learning in this business is learning to just not take yourself too seriously. And after all, what we're doing are Pampered Chef parties where people like to have fun. So sometimes mistakes are the best things that can happen. So embrace the fact that there's going to be a learning curve. Have fun with the learning curve. Some jobs, you better get through that learning curve as fast as you can, or you could lose your job, or it's an important thing. Like my last job was a nurse, so you didn't want to get stuck in the learning curve and laugh your way through it because it could mean someone's life. That's not the case here. Yeah. We are allowed to just laugh our way through that learning curve, have fun all the while, and build a business at the same time. So that is another thing that all successful consultants have in common. They embrace that learning curve, and they're a little bit forgiving for of themselves as they go along. Okay. Now, would you agree that if you want to be good at something, that practice would be important?
Yes.
Yes, of course. And in the Pampered Chef world, Pampered Chef did extensive research, and they found that there's this magic number. It's 2 parties a week. I don't know what people's lives are like. If you can't see yourself doing 2 parties a week long term, if you can at least do 2 parties a week for your training month, that would be really good. It's sort of like if you wanted to drive a car. Is driving a car difficult? Not once you've been doing it a while. But remember how scared you were the first time you got behind the wheel of a car? Did you think, I'm going to be the only person in the world who's never going to learn this because this is scary? And if you only drove a car once a month, how long would it take to get good at it?
Yeah, a long time.
A long time, if ever, right? You might never get good at it if you only did it once a month. So the only way to get good at driving is to drive. You can go to driver ed classes and learn and learn and learn and learn, but the bottom line is you just got to get behind the wheel and just start doing it. And that's the same thing with Pampered Chef. So there is this magic number of 2 parties a week. I think it's the magic number for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's only about 8 to 10 hours out of your life. So most people can fit it into a schedule, even if they already work full time and have kids or whatever. Also, it just seems to be enough. If you schedule 8 parties, guess what? They're probably not all going to hold. Probably 6 of them will. And that still seems to be, if you do something 6 times in a month, it seems to be that enough so that you get through that learning curve. So by the time your first month is done, you know how the website works. You know how to enter orders. You know how to enter bookings. You know how to do a show. You know what the booking slide looks like and what it's used for, all that kind of stuff. And you feel confident, capable, successful. It's also the magic number because it allows you to see enough people so that you can book future shows, so that your business keeps going, so that you don't run out of steam. So for those two reasons, I think that's why it's the magic number. And I want to show you guys, because I know a lot of times when people join a business like this, I know when I joined many years ago, I thought I would only do it for a short time because I thought it was good for a little bit of extra money. I didn't really know what the big picture could look like. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about options that you have with your businesses if you want. I want to talk to you a little bit about what, if you did 2 parties a week, what that could look like down the road if you work those parties with intention, because that's another thing that all successful consultants have in common. They work with intention. They don't necessarily work harder. They don't necessarily put in more hours. They are just more intentional about the time they put in. So here's what an intentional business can look like right off the bat for you guys. So let's say you, in the month of April, you booked 8 parties. You held 8 parties. We're going to use the national show average. Do you guys know what the show average is nationwide?
I think it was like 4 something.
About 475. In our area, our show average is more like 500 or more. For people who have experience, it's significantly higher than that. So when you use a show average of 500, because that's our team show average, and so if you did 8 parties at $500 a party, how much are you selling in a month?
That's a lot, yeah.
4,000 in sales.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know where that puts you on the commission scale?
I don't remember what it is.
Do you remember, Lisa?
I don't offhand.
Okay, it puts you at the top of the commission scale.
Oh, it is the 25%.
It puts you at 25%. Okay, so that would mean you'd make $1,000 right off the bat. $1,000 a month. So what would you guys do with $1,000?
Yeah, kidding.
Oh, I'm serious. It wasn't rhetorical. What would you do?
Oh,
you made $1,000 in April. What would you be doing?
Probably just, I'm sort of using it to supplement my income because I quit my full-time job and stay home with my kids. So it just kind of helps add to the
Yep. So I bet that would help.
I guess.
That would help a bit. And what's nice about this
Absolutely.
is there's no daycare costs. You actually get to keep what you make.
Yeah.
And I know I started when my kids were little, and I know working a 2.5 to 3 hour shift was a much better fit than an 8.5 hour shift with an hour commute.
For sure.
Yeah. But now there's a principle, and again, these numbers are not mine. This comes from extensive Pampered Chef research. They call it the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 principle. And that principle states this. And guess what? To have the 8 shows with a $500 show average, you don't even have to be that intentional about your business. But if you do work it with intention and you get those numbers, the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 principle working for you, here's what it could mean. Okay, so you're doing 8 parties a month. And let's say you have an average of attendance of 10. Some of your parties are going to have 15. Some of your parties are going to have 3. I mean, it's still to this day, we all have that. But let's say you have an average of 10 people per party. You're going to see 80 people in a month, right? Well, if we do our jobs right, this principle tells us that 1/3 of the people that we offer information to will, about the business, will say, sure, I'll take some information home. So that's about 25 people in a month, which is about 3 people per party. And when you consider that every host packet has information about the business in it, do you not think that it's realistic that 3 people per party could be going home with information? Maybe 2 of them in the forms of a host packet and 1 person who says, I would like information about the business? Absolutely. So 1/3 of them will take information home. About 1/3 of those who take information with them will say, yeah, let's talk further. I'm really curious. Let's get together over a cup of coffee or over the phone. And by the way, you guys are new, so those calls will be with your director. You can do like a 3-way call or a 3-way coffee. So that's about 8 people who, in a month, who could sit down and say, yeah, I want to talk more about this. And about 1/3 of those who talk with us more will say, yeah, I want to do this. I mean, that's just kind of the numbers game. So that's about 2 people per month that you could be sponsoring. So what do all consultants who are successful have in common? They are okay, somehow have learned to be okay with hearing 78 no thank yous for every 2 yeses, and knowing that it's okay. It's sort of like a waitress after your meal saying, would you like coffee or would you like dessert? The waitress doesn't get upset because one person might say, oh, I'd love a cup of coffee, and another person might say, no, thank you. And someone says, I don't want dessert, and the other person says, yes. The waitress is not getting upset by any of these responses, right? The waitress is just offering what she has to offer to everybody and letting people decide for themselves what they want. Well, when we do that same thing, that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 principle works out for us. Now, the other thing is, Pampered Chef did research, and the research shows that 1 out of every 6 to 8 people that we talk to about having a party will say yes. So if you are seeing 80 people at those parties, you're probably going to book 10 to 12 parties. And even with naturally a couple of parties a month, maybe not holding on the originally scheduled date and having to reschedule, you're going to have what we call a self-sustaining calendar. When you start coming to sales meetings, you might notice that very often it's the same people who are at the front of the room. And that's because all of us have a self-sustaining calendar, whether it's a couple parties a month or whether it's 3 or 4 parties a week. However many shows you have in one month, that's probably going to be how many you have in the next month, unless you do something dramatically different. So I always tell people when you're new, don't say, oh, I'll start off slowly, because then you'll just continue on slowly. Start off at whatever pace you think you're going to want to do long term. And if you think to yourself, well, I'd love to do that, but I don't know where to find those bookings, then that's when you talk to your director. You don't have to know how to get to that pace by yourself when you're new. You just have to let us know that that's the pace you want. And it's our job to work with you to help you get there. Okay? So the goal is once you get the parties in place, you're going to have the bookings because you're going to see the people, and you're also going to have leads for building a team as well. And I want to show you where you could end up in just 90 days of just going out 2 days a week and investing about 10 hours a week into your business. All right, Lisa, you can't see this page, and Jessica, I'm not sure how well you can read it if there's a glare. But basically, Lisa, I'll kind of tell you the numbers. You're going out of your house, you're doing 2 parties a week with a $500 show average, and that is $4,000 in sales, and that's giving you $1,000 worth of income. However, at this point now, you've sponsored 6 people, and let's just say they're selling an average of $1,000 a month. That's $6,000 in your team sales, but your team sales are equal to your sales as well. So now you have $10,000 in team sales. And do you know what happens after you sponsor 5 and you have 5 active people? You become a director. So at this point, you're a director. Don't let the word scare you. It's
right.
Okay. But you make a 3% override on your team sales of $10,000, which is about $300. You also earn an activity bonus, which is $10 for every active person on your team. So that's an extra $60. So 3 months from now, for going out of your house a couple times a week, you could be looking at $1,360. That's a 30% raise in 3 months' time. Now, Jessica, who's your director?
Michelle Weinstein.
Yep. And Lisa, who's your director?
Michelle.
Yeah. And who's running this training tonight?
You are.
Right. So I don't want you to think, oh my goodness, do I have time to be a director?
Right.
I love to train. Love to train. I'm like, put me in charge of training, okay? So when you sponsor people, don't think, oh my God, how am I going to have time to support these people? We already have systems in place to support people as they come into the business. So you don't need to worry about that. You just need to plug them in. And don't even worry about plugging them in, because your job in the beginning is to say, you don't even have to tell Michelle to plug them in. She's going to plug them in to the trainings that they need to be plugged into. So you don't need to worry at all about that. All you need to do is sit next to them at the sales meeting so they don't get scared. So now let's dream even a little bit bigger, and let's talk about where you could be in 6 months. You are still going out 2 days a week to do parties. But now your show average is probably up to $600, if not more. Most people who are doing 2 parties a week over 6 months' time, even before 6 months' time, have a good $600 or more show average. I'm sure you guys have seen postings on your team pages. People are posting, I had an $800 show, I had a $1,000 show. So believe me, these parties happen all the time. So a $600 show average is still pretty conservative numbers if you're holding a consistent show schedule. You're going out 2 times a week. Now you're selling $4,800 a month. But instead of making 25%, you're now making 27%. And if you're not a numbers person, just let all this wash all over you, and I'll tell you the big number at the bottom, okay? And that's all you need to worry about. But you're making 27% because once you sell $15,000 in career sales, and you never have more than 2 months in a row of inactivity. You can take 1 month off, but you can't take 2 months off in a row or you lose your career sales. You still don't get fired. It's not the end of the world, but you start all over. But with earning your career sales. But once your career sales hit 15,000, you get a raise. Your base commission goes from 20% to 22%. And although it sounds like a 2% raise, it's not, because 10% of 20 is 2%. It's a 10% raise in your income. So now you're making 27% on your sales. Now you're making almost $1,300 a month on your personal sales alone. The first month you're making $1,000 on your personal sales. Now a few months later you're making almost $1,300 on your personal sales because you got better at what you do, you hung around, they gave you a raise, and all is well in the world. But let's say now you've got 10 people on your team. Because some of the people that you signed up might have dropped off. Not everybody does this long term. Some people really just say, wow, that's a great kit, but what's the bare minimum? I'm just going to sell that and leave. And they're allowed to do that. Or some people try it out and it's not their thing or whatever. So let's say now you've built your team and you've got 10 people on your team. And they're selling an average of $1,000 a month. Some are selling less, some are selling more. So now your activity bonus is $100, right? Because it's $10 for every active person on your team. But let's say you bumped into one person who came to this training and said, oh my gosh, I want to do 2 parties a week. That's that's great income. I can do that. And I can embrace this whole 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 thing. And that person goes on to become a director on your team. You then become an advanced director. Again, don't let any of the titles scare you, because once you come to a director meeting, you realize we're all just regular people and nobody, it's nothing to be scared of at all. We work together and we support each other. So now you've got this one person on your team who's become a director. So they're selling $4,000 a month because they're going out there twice a week. And let's say they have 5 people on their team who are selling $1,000 a month. Okay, so now what this all means is if you add that all up, your organizational sales are $23,000. It's your sales, it's your team, and it's this person who became a director and her team sales. All of that added up together is actually just shy of $24,000. As an advanced director, you make a 4% override, which is $960. You add that to your activity bonus of $100, and now your overrides alone are $1,060. Now remember, on month 1, we talked about going out and doing 2 shows a week with a $500 show average, and Jessica, you looked pretty happy to make $1,000 a month for doing that. How would you feel 6 months from now if you were making over $1,000 a month in your overrides?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. And that means your total income would be, for a month, $2,356. You're still doing 2 parties a week. Guess how many parties I average a week?
How many? 2.
2. Still, after all these years. And people say, how do you do it? Because, sometimes they'll ask me questions during the Q&A round, or they'll ask me things, and so sometimes they know I'm putting 2 kids through college, I'm funding my retirement and paying my mortgage and putting food on the table and all this. And they say, how do you do that? And really, it's not because I've worked more and worked harder over the years. It's because I've worked consistently over the years. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, things didn't come together for me right away. It took a good 6 months of me falling on my face a lot. If you looked at my stats for my first 6 months of business, you would not have thought, yeah, that's a person who's going places in this business. In fact, there were some quite embarrassing months there. I had one month where I had $188 show average. Ooh. I think a lot of people would have walked away and said, this business isn't worth it, But I just thought, I am clearly doing something wrong, because there are a lot of other people out there with much higher show averages. I need to find out what they're doing that I'm not doing. I was determined to be successful, not just throwing my hands up in the air. But now, that was 6 months out of an 18-year-long business. So do I care? No, I don't. I learned my lessons, and then I started actually listening to what my director told me. Because in the beginning, I'm thinking, oh, I'll do it my own way. So anyway, in 6 months, you could be making almost $2,400 a month from your little part-time 2-day-a-week business. That is a 130% raise in 6 months' time. And it doesn't stop there. It can keep going, and often does. Have you guys heard about Fast Track?
Yes.
Okay. 'Cause
Yes.
good. This is a program that Pampered Chef offers, and it goes right along with the numbers that I just shared with you. When you promote to director in your first 90 days of business, in addition to the numbers that I just shared with you, Pampered Chef is going to give you a $500 cash bonus. They're also going to give you, I think, 300 or 400 PC dollars at the time if you promote, and whatever the new product line was that has come out in the past few months, that will land on your doorstep, which is about $600 worth of products this season. So it's not a bad thing. You can earn up to a $2,000 cash bonus if you go on to promote to advanced director in your first 6 months. So they didn't have this fast track program when I was new. It's a relatively new thing that they've just been offering the last couple of years. So if this is something that intrigues you, like I said, it doesn't mean more time in your business. It probably just means intentional time in your business. If you're thinking that 2 parties a week is a good fit for you, then you should really sit down and have a talk with Michelle about the fast track, because if you're willing to do 2 parties a week, you could definitely be on track for that. Okay, so once you've got the parties in place, how do you get that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 thing happening for you? Well, there's basically 6 skills that you need to work on. And really only 4 of them are ones you need to work on when you're new. Skill number 1, I'll hold it up on the page here, is prospecting. That's who you talk to and what you say to get those initial parties on the books. If you've already got the number of parties in your next 30 days that is the pace you want to be doing from here on out, great. If you don't and you need to add some, call your director and say, this is where I'm at, but here's how many I really want to be doing, and we'll work on that prospecting with you. And there's also training online on prospecting as well, and you can find great materials there. The next skill is what we call host coaching. That's how we work with the hosts to help them have a successful party. Did you guys host parties before becoming consultants?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And did the consultant give you ideas, tips on who to invite, how to invite, about reminder calls and stuff like that to help you have a successful turnout?
Yeah, and she gave me that 40 in 4 minutes or something.
Exactly.
That was pretty helpful.
Yep. So that's what host coaching is.
Mm-hmm.
That's so that the shows hold, that there's good attendance. If there's good attendance, then you're going to get good bookings, because 1 out of 6 to 8 will book. So you don't want 3 people at a party. It might be tougher to get a booking, but if you have 10 to 15 people at a party, it's not going to be so hard. Obviously, the sales will be there if those numbers are there, and that whole 1/3, 1/3 thing can start happening for you. The next skill is one that we call generating interest. And that's how you get people excited about our products, get people excited about the possibility of having a party, and get people excited about the business opportunity. The 4th skill is inviting, or the full service checkout. And that's when so during our party, we're dropping seeds, we're doing a booking slide, a little Q&A round, all that. But it's during that full service checkout that we're really talking to people, finding out what they might want more information about, and helping them overcome any hesitations that they might have. And then the 5th skill is the interview. So now someone says, yes, I'm interested in the business. And it's just kind of giving them the information they need to make an informed decision, finding out if they have any hesitations, and maybe offering them some suggestions about how to work around that. And then the last skill is the strong start. Okay, so those are the 6 skills. The prospecting, that you're going to be kind of checking it out online and working one-on-one with your director about where you are, what you've tried so far, and what you could do next. Host coaching, we're going to be talking about tonight. The generating interest, that we cover at the cooking show training. We teach you on how to get people excited about the 3 things we have to offer. We also cover full service checkout at that new consultant training. The interview, well, that you're going to learn as time goes on. When you've got your first recruit lead, which, just warning you guys, my first recruit lead was from my first party. Okay, so I think sometimes people actually are more drawn to the business when they see someone brand new up there, and people are excited about the products and they know you're brand new. They're like, oh, wow, so you don't need a lot of experience to do well with this. The interview.
That's how I was recruited.
Oh, okay.
Erin Crowley was my recruiter, and she was brand new.
Right, and you thought, wow, she's brand new and she can do this.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's very often what happens. Most people do bump into their first recruit lead in their first couple of shows, first 3 or 4 shows usually. So now during the interview, you don't have to do that interview, obviously. The way you learn the interview is when you've got someone who's interested in the business, you're going to say, hey, how about we schedule a time to talk? I'm brand new. I want to make sure you get all the information you need. So how about if we schedule some time to talk with, fill in the name of your director, but please don't call us a director because then people get wigged out and they don't want to talk to us. But you just say, hey, would you like to talk with Michelle, who's been training me. She's great. She's got a lot of experience, and I'm sure she can answer all your questions and give you all the information you need to make a good decision. So you're going to hear the interview a few times on a 3-way call. Believe me, after you hear that a few times, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I can do that on my own. And then so whenever that time is for you, we don't kick you out of the nest or anything like that. You can listen to as many of those as you want. And then the strong start, same thing when someone decides to get started, sort of the process and helping them get those initial parties in the books. Like I said, those last 2 skills you are not going to need to focus on for quite some time. You'll learn those as you go. So tonight what we're going to be focusing on is host coaching. Okay, so did you guys find or have you heard about the host coaching checklist, the host information and checklist? It is here. That's what it looks like. So what you want to do is you want to make a bunch of copies of this and put it in a 3-hole punch. Or if you are a techie person and you like to do, everything on the computer, then just print out one of these and put it in a page saver and sort of have it nearby when you're talking with your hosts. As you talk about things, you can be taking notes or checking things off on your phone or on your iPad or whatever you like to take your notes on. But this is one of the things, when we talk about working with intention, this is what we talk about. Okay, so now let me ask you, what's the first thing you do when you schedule a party? What's one of the first things you do?
Pick a date.
Pick a date, yeah. And then put it in your calendar, right? Okay, because if you didn't put it in your calendar, there's a pretty good chance you might not show up, or at least I wouldn't if I didn't put it in my calendar. Okay, so the same is true with your host coaching. You want to somehow put it in your calendar so you don't forget to do it. Host coaching isn't hard to do, but if it doesn't get done, then invitations don't get sent out, reminder calls don't get made, and that's when you're going to have a lot of cancellations. Okay, nobody ever says, hey, I have 17 people coming to my show and $150 in outside orders, but I think I'll cancel. But if they forgot to get their invitations out because you never reminded them, and now it's like 5 days before their party and they're thinking, oh, I'll just tell her someone got sick and I'll just reschedule because I don't have time now because I don't think I can pull it together so quickly. They could, but they often don't want to. So you want to put you want to schedule your host coaching calls, put them in your calendar. Pampered Chef talks about the 3 contact method, and they kind of tell you like when those contacts are supposed to happen. They can vary depending on how far out the person books. Sometimes we only contact them twice. If they schedule a party within a week or 10 days, we might only be contacting them twice. But basically, when they schedule their party, you talk to them a little bit that night, but then you want to be talking to them within 24 to 48 hours after that. Kind of walking them through their packet in a little more in depth, finding out what their goals are, and everything is listed right on the checklist of things you're supposed to cover on that first contact. Finding out what they want to get from their party, and of course, developing the very, very important invitation list. So when someone schedules a party, you want to schedule that time with them. Okay, so I'm going to be getting a packet to you. If it's over the phone, I'm going to be getting a packet to you. And then, can we schedule a time? Schedule it right then and there when you're going to talk to them after that packet arrives. Some people just kind of count out, like, okay, so 2 to 3 days out, I'm going to put that person in here, and then I'm going to talk to them a week before their party, and then I'm going to talk to them 3 days before their party, or whatever time frame Pampered Chef says that's on that checklist. Other people schedule it differently. They say, okay, every Monday, I'm going to call all my hosts who have a show this week. Now, if you're doing 2 parties a week, this is not a lot of time. It's just 2 calls, right? You only have 2 parties this week. And then on Tuesdays, they'll call all their hosts who have parties the next week. And on Wednesdays, they call all their hosts who have parties 3 to 4 weeks out. So it really doesn't matter how you do it, but it matters that you do it, and it really matters that you schedule it. And this can morph over time. You'll find a system that works for you. But for now, just pick one of these systems, whether it's I'm just going to count out, they booked here, I'm calling them in 2 days, I'm calling them a week before, and I'm calling them 3 days before, and put the initials in there, or put reminders in your phone. Or you can use the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday method if you'd like. So now you know when you're going to do the host coaching. Now how to do the host coaching. And I think it's really important to start with the end in mind. I mean, think about what you would like to achieve from your shows. What would be a perfect show for you? What do you think?
Probably them, I guess, hitting the $650 mark.
Okay,
I don't know.
You want decent sales, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think you're going to get that? How many people do you want at your party?
10 to 15.
Okay, so you want 10 to 15 people at your show, all right? Would you like some outside orders?
Yes.
Yep, you'd like some outside orders. Tell me about the people at the show.
Want them to be fun.
Fun people, yes. Fun is good. And sometimes fun just comes with sheer numbers. Yeah, what else? Do you want to make sure the host invites some people who need extra income?
Yes.
Yeah. Because if you don't put that in your host coaching, the host might avoid inviting those people because she doesn't want them to feel like they have to come and place an order.
Right.
But if you let them know, oh, really, they don't need to place an order, just tell them to come to have fun. And you know what? They're going to hear about how they can get free products by having a party like you. And they're also going to hear a little bit about the business. They might decide they want to do this for income. And they're going to remember you as the one that introduced them to it. Do you want a varied crowd?
What?
You want a varied
keep
crowd.
Cutting out.
Right? Oh, sorry. You definitely want a varied crowd. You want to make sure the host isn't just inviting family. Because if it's all family, you might get multiple bookings, but they're going to spread it out because they're all inviting the same people back, right? Mm-hmm. But if a host has family and some neighbors and some coworkers, you can get a couple of bookings in close because they don't all know the same people. So having a varied crowd is really important. Okay. You want some people there probably who've never been to shows before. You want some people there who are groupies so they can sell the newbies on what's so great about Pampered Chef. I always love to have a few people there that the host doesn't even know. To bring a friend, get a free gift thing. You know? So be thinking about what you want the group to look like. So what I suggest is that you take notes on your host information sheet. You can flip it over to the back. There's some space at the bottom, and you can write some notes in there so that when you're working with your host on who to invite, you know, you can be saying, oh, don't forget about these people, don't forget about that people, you know, that kind of thing. And the 40 guests in 4 minutes, that's also posted on our team Facebook page. You know, include that in every host packet and review it with them. But you want to keep the host coaching fun and conversational, because you don't want someone to think, oh, yeah, I just booked this fun Pampered Chef party, woohoo, and then you call them up going, okay, so I have my list here, and you need to invite 40 people, and you need to invite them on, you know, by Facebook and by email, and text them and call them, and then you need to see if they want to place outside orders if they can't come, and then you need to do this, and then and all of a sudden they're thinking, oh, I thought I booked this nice fun party, and now it's like a lot of work. Okay, so you want to keep it sort of fun and conversational. And sometimes people are a little hesitant about inviting. Did you guys, when you hosted, did you just immediately come up with a huge list? No problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you did. Good for
Yeah.
you. Okay. How about you, Lisa? Did you come up with a great big list with not a problem?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, you guys are good. And maybe a third of our hosts are able to come up with a big long list with not a lot of problem. But there are some people who are going to need help with that. And so, so Jessica, why don't you be my pretend host tonight? And so I want you to be, we met 2 nights ago at Lisa's party, and you scheduled a party. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. And I gave you the host packet that night. I briefly walked you through everything, and I showed you that 40 guests in 4 minutes sheet. And I said, let's talk in a couple of days because I want to give you some more tips. But in the meantime, just throw out a save the date email and Facebook post and just start working on this list, and then we'll talk in a few days. So that's kind of how I left it with you. And here we are now, and let's say you've got maybe 15 people on your list.
Okay.
Okay. So Jessica, hey, how's it going?
Good, thanks.
Good. Are you getting excited about your party?
Yes, very.
I am too. I cannot wait for April. I'm so ready to be done with this snow. So the other night we talked a little bit about how important it is to over-invite to your party, because I want to help you get everything that's on your wish list. And by the way, tell me what your big ticket items are. What are 2 or 3 things you definitely want in your kitchen by the time we're done with your party?
The rock crock, the deep covered baker, and some good knives.
Oh, awesome. Okay. I see it's not a big list, but boy, those are all the power tools. And you know what? It's going to be my mission to help you get all those things. Okay. So I think if the knives would be a good half price item, but I'd love you to get the rock crock for free. How does that sound?
That
and
sounds
maybe the
good
deep
to
covered baker, either, it's a 60% off item in April, right? Perfect. Oh, this is great. That's our
60% off
right?
is good.
All right, awesome. Now, in order to earn enough to get that rock crock for free and those other things at half or 60% off, I think a really good goal would be to get about 15 or so people at your party. How does that sound to you?
Okay.
Sound good? Okay.
Sure.
So now I don't want to like intimidate or scare you. I want to be really honest. In order to get 15 people in your house, it's probably going to mean inviting something like 40 to 45 people. How do you feel about that?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Good. So do you know that 40 guests in 4 minutes sheet that I sent you home with?
Yes.
Have you gotten a start on that?
Yeah, I've worked on it a little bit.
Okay. So how many people do you have on there so far?
I think it was about 15.
Okay, well, you know what? Hey, that's a good start. We're already a third of the way there. And you know what? I find if I just brainstorm with people for a couple of minutes, that they are amazed at how many people they know and how many other names I can help them add to their list. So,
Okay.
would you be up for that?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So you've got 15 people on there so far. Tell me how you know these people. I don't need to know details about each and every one of them, but
Right.
Who kind of tell me where these names came from.
I've got my family, some family members that are close by, and some coworkers.
Okay.
And a few of the moms from my son's play group.
Okay.
And that's about all I was able to come up with.
All right. So when it comes to your family, you said, did you invite all of them or just a few of your favorites that you think would like to come to a Pampered Chef party?
Just the ones that, were closer by, that are, wouldn't have to drive too far, or.
Okay. Did you invite men from your family or just women from your family?
No, just women.
Ah, well, see there? You can invite men because your party's in April, and what happens in May? Mother's
Day, right.
Yeah, so the guys might not come, but you know what? When it comes to getting those free products, at most of my parties, anywhere from a third of the orders, sometimes as many as half of them are from people who can't come. So don't exclude the men. And you know what? We can ship anywhere, so don't exclude long-distance family either.
Right.
You never know. Are you new in your neighborhood or anything like that? Do you have some family members who haven't seen your house yet?
No, they've mostly seen our house, but we're fairly new to the neighborhood and we don't know a lot of our neighbors.
All right, because I was going to say, if you're new to your house, even if your family lives far away, they'll often want to come just to see like what the new house looks like.
Right.
But invite those long distance people. Their family, they all eat, and so a lot of times they'll want to help you out by placing an order. Okay, so you said you're new to the neighborhood. Did you invite any of your neighbors?
No, I don't really know many of them.
Oh, would you like to know them?
I guess, sure.
Because a really easy way to get to know your neighbors is to invite them to your Pampered Chef party. Because I'm going to greet them at the door and introduce myself, and I'm going to put a name tag on them. And then they're going to walk in over to the table where all the Pampered Chef products are, and they're just going to start chatting. And you know what? Do you think your neighbors are curious as to what you did to the house since you moved into the neighborhood?
Probably.
Yeah, so they're going to want to see it. And you don't have to know them, like first and last name and all that, in order to invite them. You can just kind of walk around the neighborhood. If there's some that you know are always out in the morning walking the dog, try to pop out there one morning to hand them an invitation. And if you know there's another one that's always, bringing in the mail at 3:00, go and see if you can pop out there one day. But if not, just kind of put one in every mailbox. A lot of times, people want to meet their neighbors. We're just coming out of a long winter when people aren't really out walking the dog and stuff like that. So they're not hanging out outside. They haven't seen their neighbors in a while, and they're looking forward to meeting their neighbors. Now, you said you invited some coworkers.
Yes.
Did you invite all of them, or just the ones that you think would want to come to your Pampered Chef?
Just the ones that I think would probably want to come.
Okay. Where do you work?
I work at the hospital.
Oh, my goodness. You can invite a ton of people. Mm-hmm. And I would definitely recommend that you do. And again, it's sort of like a wedding. We don't expect that everybody's going to come, but very often if people can't come to the wedding, they send a wedding gift anyway.
Yeah.
But you invite people from the hospital, a lot of them will say, oh, I can't make it, but I'd love to see a catalog. Mm-hmm. So have a catalog and order forms as well. But people, once they see the products and get to use them, they tend to buy a lot more than if they just flip through a catalog. So I would invite them first and then use the orders as a backup plan. Now, how old is you said you have a son who goes to play?
Yeah, I have two. One is 4.5 and one is almost 2.
So 2 and 4.5. Oh, I remember when my kids were those ages. So you invited some of the moms from the playgroup, or all?
Right, some of the ones that I've talked to. And
okay. Do you feel like you could just bring an invitation to it and just hand it out to people even if you don't know them that well?
Possibly, yeah. Oh. Yeah, probably.
Because you know what? You're never going to insult anybody by inviting them to a Pampered Chef party.
Right.
But if they find out, like if someone finds out that you had a Pampered Chef party and other
wasn't invited.
Yeah, then they're like, well, what's up with Jessica?
I mean,
Pampered Chef party and didn't invite us. So you never ever, and you know what? Inviting them isn't pressuring them. If they don't want to come, they won't. If they can't come but want something, they'll place an outside order. If they want to come and kind of spend more time with you, then they'll be there. Do you have a spouse?
Yes.
Yep. Does he work?
Yes.
Did you invite any of his coworkers?
No, they're all guys.
And what happens after April?
I guess, yeah.
And you know what, Jessica? I don't want you to feel like I'm giving you a homework assignment.
No, I know.
Okay.
No, there's definitely some good ideas, though, for sure.
You know what? Just pick and choose the ones that are going to be easy for you.
I like the idea of the play group one, though, because those are moms that would be more approachable. The hospital's hard because I only work 1 day a week. Like I'm per diem. I work in the emergency room. Very few people see me or even know who I am,
and you know what? You just leave the catalog out. They don't even have to know you. They know Pampered Chef. If they love Pampered Chef, they don't have to love you.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. I've had people who had $1,000 catalog shows in the hospital, and they only really know a fraction of the people who place them.
I know. I'd actually thought of that, maybe leaving one in like a business card or something in the nurse's lounge or something.
Now, does your husband have family in the area?
Yeah, his is, when I say my family, it's really his family.
Okay, good. That's not always what it means. Okay, so let me ask you now that you're going to be inviting some more of the people from the hospital and more of the playgroup moms and more of the family members, the long distance ones, the local ones. Do you feel like now 40 to 45 is a reasonable number that you could
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I tell you, it's really a numbers game. If you invite enough people will come and place orders, and even a lot of those who can't will place orders anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to get that nice block set and that deep paper and a free rock clock. Cool. Okay, so that's how I recommend that you brainstorm that list.
That's good.
Some of the things I hope you noticed, I tried to make it fun.
Right.
I talked about our party and how I want to make it my mission to help you get those things.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you permission along the way. How do you feel about that? Can I help you brainstorm?
Right.
I didn't say, how lame are you? You only have 15 people.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's a great start. We're already a third of the way there. And like, this is fantastic.
Right.
And if I ever feel like, and I got by your impression when I went, my husband works with all men. Like, it's going to make me talk to these guys. You do want to kind of like, if you get the feeling.
Talk to daddy, please. Sorry. That was the 4.5-year-old.
No worries. I was just saying, if you get the feeling that the ideas that you're sharing are becoming burdensome,
mm-hmm.
I'm always sure to say, by the way, this is not a homework assignment. Just pick and choose the ones that are going to be really easy for you. But I don't know which of the ones are going to be easy for you. So I'm just kind of throwing them all out there.
Yeah.
And pick and choose. And then they go, oh, okay. And then, then I'm tying it back to the fact that, I've just kind of shown them the picture. Well, you're going to get the rock crock at 60% off, and you get your deep covered baker for free. That was it. And your knives as a half price item. Now it's like, they're kind of seeing the picture.
Right.
To get that for free and get those half price items that's looking at this many people. Okay, so that's the biggest part of call number 1 is the invitation list. Call number 1 is the longest host coaching call. It's usually 15, sometimes 20 minutes. But it is incredibly valuable for you and your hosts. Remember that month I had a $188 show average?
Yeah.
Not good for either my hosts or me. Thank goodness it was only 150 in sales to be a show back then, or most of my shows wouldn't even have qualified. And you know what? It wasn't good for either one of us.
Right.
15 minutes, it's not burdensome. They scheduled a party. They want to have a successful one. Mm-hmm. Pampered Chef did research. They talked to thousands of hosts about their Pampered Chef experience, their products, their rewards. Overall, our hosts told us they love our products. They love our host rewards program. Mm-hmm. The one complaint they had was they didn't hear from their consultant enough. So don't feel like you're being burdensome. Don't be calling them every day.
Right.
But be a support to them. And before I hang up with call number 1, I tell them when I plan on calling them back.
Yep.
So I say, okay, this is call number 1. I'm going to call you again about 10 days before your party. That's when we're going to want to get the official word out, and I'm going to get your invite and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But you can start talking it up now. And if any of your friends have any questions along the way, please don't feel like you have to wait for me to call you. Feel free to call me. But I'm telling them when they're going to hear from me again. Right. And then when we talk 7 to 10 days before, then I'm going to tell them, okay, now I'm going to be calling you again 2 to 3 days before. That's when we're going to, I'm going to get directions so I don't forget them if I get them now. And, we'll finalize the recipe and the ingredients. So they know exactly every step of the way. So they're not like, when are we going to talk about the food? Mm-hmm. So that's the main thing of call number 1. Some other ideas that I share with my hosts when it comes to inviting is I tell them, check who you know on Facebook. But I tell them Facebook is a great way to remind yourself of all the people you know, but it's not necessarily the best way to invite. People miss events very easily. But it is a great way to remind yourself of all the people you know. Look who's logged on your cell phone is another great thing. If someone mentions that they recently got married, I say, look at your invitation list. Because it's so funny, because people are like, I don't think I know 40 people. Are you married? Yep. How many people at your wedding? 190. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So when it comes to host coaching, you want your mantra to be inspire and inform. You want to get them excited about all the products that they're going to get, and then inform them on how exactly to do that. So you get them excited about the products they're going to get for free, and then inform them about how they're going to do that. And you want to partner with your hosts. so that they feel like they're part of a team, not that you're just delegating all of this to them. Now, one thing I want to make sure you guys know, the host packets that come in your kit are not specific to a month. They're sort of generic. So before you pass them out to your hosts, you need to go onto the Consultant's Corner, log in with your consultant number and password, and go to the section that has the host specials, the guest specials, and the outside order forms, and print out the ones appropriate for the month that they've booked. So make sure you do that. I don't go into a lot of detail with my hosts about the Host Rewards program before the party. I just basically tell them, obviously, the more people you have there, the more outside orders you have, the better you're going to do. Sometimes they want to know the details of that. Just make sure that if you had the chart in front of you, you would be able to explain it to somebody. You don't have to memorize it, but you want to make sure that if someone asks you, hey, can I take my free product value and put it toward my half price item, you want to make sure that you're confident to say, no, that's not how that works. You get your 60% off item, you get half price items. Your free stuff has to go toward regularly priced items. So again, you don't have to memorize it, but you want to be able to explain it accurately.
You guys said something on the recipe night cooking show video or whatever. I watched the YouTube one because I wasn't able to go. So say if they have $90 of product and they wanted to get a rock crock, they can use the $90 towards that, but then the balance is they can use their discount on the balance.
Yeah, usually every column is separate. You've got you pick your 60% off item, then you've got your half price items, then you're free, and yes, your free can go toward larger items. Anything that is not free then is discounted, even if it's a portion of a product.
I just wanted to make sure I was like, is that right?
So if they put their 90 toward the rock crock, the rest of their rock crock slides into their discount.
That's cool. I just wanted to make sure I was hearing that right, and
Absolutely.
I didn't just make that up.
Good to make sure. Good to make sure.
Can I interrupt?
Absolutely, yes.
What you were just discussing with the rock crock, I thought that if they earn $90 in credit, I thought if they put it towards, let's say, the rock crock, that the rest of it would not be discounted.
It is. It's discounted. Yep. Everything that isn't free or half price or 60% off is discounted. So that balance would fall into the discount column, and the system's going to do that automatically. You don't have to know the math. So you've got, but the half price and the 60%, the balance of the half off and 60% off don't fall into that column.
Right.
Okay.
60% off is just 60% off. Half is just half. Free is free, and everything that is not free is then at that unlimited discount. Okay.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So good. Glad we got that clarified. I don't offer a lot of incentives. I talk up what Pampered Chef is offering. However, one thing that I do that I think is really valuable is I do the bring a friend, get a free gift. You can buy stuff at the Dollar Tree. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. It can be a menu pad. It can be, the little recipe cards or what have you. Bring a friend is a great way to make sure that your business doesn't get what I call dead-ended. You don't have the same 8 people, one of them books, and they invite the same 8 people back, and one of them books, and the same 8 people come back, and now after 3 parties, they're like, we've had enough. And you're like, uh-oh, now where do we go? So if you constantly talk up bringing a friend, have people bring a friend, they'll get a free gift. Every guest at the show, the average order is $50 to $60. So to hand them a $1 cookbook or a citrus peeler, in my mind, is well worth it. Not only that, but it's those bring a friend people are gold mines. They are gold mines. Here's why. A host, you're going to encourage a host to invite everyone she knows who eats. I don't care whether they live next door, far away, whatever, invite them all, right? But if the host is then saying to her sister, oh, can you bring a friend? Because I'm really going after this free rock crock and I need 15 people here and I just don't think I know enough. Then the sister says, sure, I'll help you out with that. And the sister's thinking, gee, of everybody I know who loves Pampered Chef or who really would enjoy to learn more about cooking, they handpick people out of everybody they know who are going to love Pampered Chef or really love what we have to offer. These bring a friend people tend to place the biggest orders and they tend to book parties. Because sometimes you hear people say, oh, I'd love to have a party, but everybody I know is here. The bring a friend people never say that. No one they know is there except the one person who brought them. And they're like, oh my gosh, I have to have a party. My family and friends need to see them. So these bring a friend people are fantastic for business. They're great for you, which makes it also great for the host. Okay, because what does the host get rewarded on? Sales and bookings, right?
Right.
Exactly. Now, we don't want to just talk to our host about outside orders. It's not enough just to say to your host, hey, and by the way, now we're on to call number 2, and you'll see on the checklist like what things you're covering when. So I forgot to kind of make that a clear delineation. So now we're on to call number 2. It's maybe a week to 10 days out. So they've made up their invitation list. They've been kind of talking it up to people as they've seen them, but they haven't got the official word out yet. So now it's about 10 days ahead, and we've gotten their invitation. That we either have them go online and put all their email addresses in, or you can send them an invite that they can forward to all their family and friends. So at this point, I want to talk to my host about how to invite. Call number 1 was who to invite. Call number 2 is how to invite. And it's not enough just to post it on Facebook and think because they have 300 friends, that's way more than 40. Because when it talks about inviting 40, that's like personally inviting 40, not just plastering on Facebook. So I tell my hosts it's super important because there are so many ways to communicate. It's hard to know what people's preferred methods are, and it's easy for people to miss if they're not looking at Facebook at the time that you post, or if you text me, I'll never get it. Never. I mean, unless my kid's around to go, Mom, you got a text, forget it, I don't get it. So I always tell my hosts it's really important to try to invite in a couple of different ways. But by far, after you get the word out in the really easy ways, I'm not saying don't invite through Facebook. Sure, invite through Facebook. Send an email out to everybody you know. Print out a bunch of invitations, hand them out to the people you see. That's a great way to invite the people that you don't know the last names of, especially in the moms group. Johnny's mom, here, hand her an invitation. You don't even have to know her first name.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
You said print out invites.
I send when I send an invite to my host. I have an invite saved that I can adjust for her show, so she can actually print some out and hand them out. So she doesn't just have to invite through the website, because if they're only inviting through the website, they're only inviting people that they have email addresses for.
Right. So where can I get a copy of?
You know what? Just email Michelle and say you'd like that, and she can email it.
Okay. Okay.
So I have that option for my host to print some out to hand out. Or you've got postcards. Do they still give you postcards?
I do have, yeah.
Yeah, people can use that as well. And those are easy to hand out to people that they don't know well enough to have an email address for.
Right. It's just hard to know. I mean, you know, they might say, oh, I'll need 5, but then, you know, I send them 5 and then they decide they need 10. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they can print out as many as they need.
Yeah, it's a nice option to have.
Yeah. So so then I just tell them you don't want to just send it out there. You want to reach out personally to a few people each day. You know, they've got now 7 to 10 days till their party. So if they're reaching out to 4 to 5 people a day, they're going to reach out to everybody. And I tell them, think about how it's best to communicate with that person. If they're always using text, personally text them. If they're always on Facebook, send them a personal message on Facebook. If they're your mother, call them. and you know, or if they're people that you know through the moms group and that's the only way you know them, talk to them when you're at the moms group. So, but try to reach out to personally to as many as life allows. But usually if they reach out to just 4 to 5 people a day, which is just 4 to 5 minutes a day, it makes a huge difference. It's just like when the doctor's office calls you to say, don't forget about that appointment. I'm having a party here on Friday. I've heard from 7 people. I'm going to have to make reminder calls. You just don't hear from that many people. I've invited like 90, so it's less than 10% who actually RSVP, and that's just kind of the way it is. But people will respond when you personally reach out to them. Okay, so then I say to my host, so when you get the invitation, when you throw it on Facebook and email it and do all that kind of stuff, I want to let you know what's going to happen, because I don't want you to freak out when it does. So I would tell, if Jessica, if you're my pretend host, I'd say, Jessica, here's what's going to happen. You're going to plaster it on Facebook. You're going to email it to everybody you know. You're going to hand it out to some people. And you are going to hear from the no's first. Because the no's know they can't come. Mm-hmm. That date jumps out in their mind. They don't even have to check their calendar. They know they've got plans. So they click on the decline, or they hit reply to your email. Sorry, I can't go. I got such and such that day. And you're going to go, oh. You're going to think, did I pick the wrong day? The date's not working for anyone. No, it's just not working for those 8 people you immediately hear from who can't come. But remember, probably anywhere from a third to half the orders that are placed in your show are going to be from people who can't come. So when someone says they can't come, you just say, oh, I'm so sorry you can't make it, but hey, did you want to see a catalog? And then I would also let you know, Jessica, there are going to be some people who are really, really, really disappointed about missing your party. Oh, I'm so sorry I can't come to your party. I love Pampered Chef. I haven't been in forever. So, Jessica, when that happens, don't just offer them the catalog. See if they want to have a party.
Have a party.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. You should have a party of your own. That way you get to pick the date. You know you can go. And you know what? If you had one, I'd come. Tell them if you had one, I'd come. And then just say, do you want me to have my Pampered Chef lady call you? And then I'd say, Jessica, there's another group of people that I want you to listen for. The people who can't come, and you ask them, would you like to see a catalog? I'm so sorry you can't make it, but did you want to see a catalog? Some are going to say, I would love to, because I love Pampered Chef. I just can't spend any money right now. So guess what, Jessica? I want you to say to them, oh my gosh, you should have a party. I'm doing it to get free stuff. Mm-hmm. And you know what? If you had one, I'd come. Do you want me to have the Pampered Chef lady call you? And then the third group I want you to be looking for, Jessica, is the people that they say they can't come, and you say, so sorry you can't make it. Did you want to see a catalog? They say yes. And then they give you their order, and they go, oh, I have to stop right there. I could have just gone crazy, but I had to stop right there because that's as much as I can spend. Jessica, what do you think I'm going to want you to say to those people?
Tell them to have a party so they can get the rest of it.
Exactly. And then you're going to say, if you had one, I would
come.
Yeah. And do you want me to have my
Pampered Chef lady call you?
Perfect. Yeah, you got me on the pop quiz. And I do just what I did with you with my host. I say it to them twice so they hear it. And then I say, what do you think I'm going to say? Because once the words come out of their mouth, it's a lot easier to say. Mm-hmm. And if they forget a step, like if you had one, I would, oh yeah, that's right. So now they're going to they're much more likely to remember it.
Right.
And don't you think it'd be great if a couple of times a month, when you walked into a show, they didn't just hand you orders. They said, and here's the name of a couple of people who want to have a party.
Absolutely.
And that will happen if you give them these ideas. They won't think of it on their own.
Right.
If we don't share these ideas with them, they'll have maybe some outside orders, but they will never have an outside booking unless you tell them that. And do you all know what a host gets for each booking?
She gets to take advantage of the monthly host special as well.
Almost. That changed on March 1st. That used to be the host reward. Now the host gets any item out of the catalog at 50% off. It's much better, because before, if they didn't want those 4 things that were on special, they were out of luck. So now the booking benefit is for every party that's booked from theirs. And guess what? If there's a list of 4 things and the host really only wants one of them, and yet 2 of her friends booked that month, now the booking benefit's much better. Anything you want at half off, any one item at that party. So now they're going to want to get as many bookings as possible. And then, Jessica, if I would say, does that sound like something you could say to people? And if you said, oh, I don't know if I feel comfortable saying that, I might give you other word choices. But notice I'm not just telling you, get outside orders, get outside bookings. I'm actually teaching you how to do it. When they say no, say, oh, I'm so sorry you can't make it, but did you want to see a catalog? Right. Because otherwise, people don't know how to get outside orders, and they think, I don't want to say to someone, so you want to place an order? I mean, they don't know how to ask. Then they hear the words, and they go, oh, I can say that.
Yeah.
So you want to be having that conversation, giving them words to say. And I know this is a long call, but when we're talking to our host, this call is usually 5 to 10 minutes. Now, sometimes at this point, a host might be in panic mode. Here it is a week to 10 days before their show, and they're like, oh my gosh, my show's coming up. I'm so crazy busy. I think I'm going to have to reschedule. Don't get panicked. Try to talk them off the ledge a little bit. I usually say, oh my gosh, but I was like so excited to get you that knife block set and that deep covered baker and that rock crock. You know, so you sound like you're feeling a little panicked right now. Yeah, I am. I'm feeling so panicked. Well, you know what? Could I just do a lot of the work for you so that it doesn't feel so panicked? Can I take something off your plate? You know, and I'll say, can you just email me the people you want to invite? I'll go onto the website and make sure they all get invited. And you know what? If there's some people that you want me to mail an invitation to, you send me their address. I'll get that out for you. You know, so just kind of take something off their plate, and you know, because really it doesn't take much time to plan a party, but people sometimes get overwhelmed at the thought.
Right.
And so, you know, and sometimes they go, oh, I don't know, I didn't get the invitations out. Now it's not enough time. And I tell them, it doesn't matter when a party's booked.
Right.
I promise you, it all comes together the last 5 to 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
You book 3 weeks out. What do? You sit around and wait.
Right.
Anything. And even then you send out the invitations and less than 10% of the people RSVP. Right. And then in the last 5 to 7 days, you call everybody. Mm-hmm. So some of my most successful shows are the ones that just skip the preliminaries and just book it a week out.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So call number 2 is about how to invite and how to get those outside orders and outside bookings. And then I say to the host that, so you're going to want to keep track of RSVPs, you know, be reaching out personally to people. I always say one of my favorite lines is use me as the bad guy. And say the Pampered Chef lady wants to have me, Pampered Chef lady's going to be calling me in a few days. She's going to want to know how many we're feeding. And then people will RSVP at that point. I also say to my host, people are going to ask when you offer them a catalog, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I'll place an order. They're going to ask you, when are you closing your show? And I always tell them, that is code for how long can I procrastinate getting my order to you?
Right.
They do not need that long to go online and place an order or to flip through a catalog. They need 15 or 20 minutes. That's all they need. And so I tell my hosts, you know, especially because this is still a week to 10 days out, just tell them we're aiming to close that night. Just say the Pampered Chef lady says I need to aim to close that night. People don't care when you're closing. They just want to know when. Mm-hmm. And I find my hosts who say we're closing that night, they get more orders than the ones who say, oh, I'm going to keep it open, take all the time you need. Because then people go, oh, this doesn't need to be a priority. And it goes way on the bottom of their list and they forget all about it. But if they say, oh, I'm closing that night, now they're talking it up at work and they're like, come on, ladies, one more day. My party's tomorrow. If you want to place an order, you better get on it. Then they get on it. People take more action when there's a deadline. Okay. Now some last minute attendance ideas. So call number 3, that's we're looking at attendance, how many we're feeding. I hold the recipe hostage till a few days before because they always want to know, what are we eating? Well, I don't know how many we're feeding. It's probably going to be the same recipe anyway, but I don't tell them that. We finalize the head count. Do they have any maybes? Do they have just people that they haven't heard from? Just last minute ideas. How many people are bringing a friend? I tell them to keep track of that because I need to know how many door prizes to bring with me. That makes sure that the host is asking people, are you bringing a friend along? If you don't tell them to keep track of bring a friend, they're not going to mention it. If they don't mention it, people aren't going to bring a friend. So, and of course, reminder calls. And I always say to my host, how many appointments would you miss if it weren't for the doctor's office or the dentist's office calling to tell you, hey, your appointment's tomorrow? I would miss probably half of my appointments. You can also offer, if you'd like, to do reminder calls for them if they're feeling too busy. Or they can do a reminder call via text or via Facebook message. It doesn't have to be an actual call. I tend to say call because of my age group, but it doesn't have to be a call, but it does need to be personal. And then host coaching doesn't end until the show is over and we've pressed send. So the coaching even continues after the party is over. So after the party happens, then I say to the host, okay, so you were expecting 13 people here and only 9 came. So who are the ones that you were expecting? And I write those names right down on her show planner. Okay, so you'll want to follow up with them. If they were going to come, chances are they were going to place an order. And then I tell her about where her sales are now and then where she's going to be. And I usually show 2 levels up. So if the host is at 650, well, you're probably about an order away from the 700. You're probably 3 to 4 orders away from the 800. And you know what? There were 4 people who couldn't come at the last minute. And so, and I give her some words to say. And I tell them, when you call people, again, they're going to ask when you're closing, 24 to 48 hours. If you say, oh, take all the time you need, you won't get any outside orders. I plan a close date with my host. I plan it 24 to 48 hours, and I tell the host just when people say when you close, and say, well, I can only keep it up until Tuesday if it's Sunday or what have you. So really, it's helpful to them. The host then doesn't have to be the bad guy. When she goes to her friends and says, okay, I can only keep it open another day or 2 because the order has to go in, then her friends are like, oh, okay, I understand. So it is actually helpful to the host to have that deadline. I also review some ideas with her. Sometimes they didn't want their husband to take the catalog in before the party. Now the husband's been in the room and he's thinking this stuff is cool. And all of a sudden I look at the host and the host's husband and say, hey, did you bring in a catalog to work? He's like, no. Well, would you want to? I don't know. And I say, all you have to do is bring it in and say, my wife is having one of these silly parties. If anybody needs anything for, a Mother's Day gift, here you go. But very often once the guy has seen the stuff and he's got a wish list along with hers, all of a sudden he's like, oh, yeah, I'll take one into work. Or I think I got a friend that might order. So I kind of review some of the ideas that they might not have warmed up to before, but now they're looking and they're getting greedy because they want even more than they originally thought. All of a sudden, they're willing to take a shot at some of those. I also tell the host who booked and who's on the fence. So I'll say, so far you've got 2 bookings for April, here and here. But you know what? This one was kind of on the fence. But I bet if you called her and you told her about where your sales are at and what you're getting, I bet she'd book. You know what? And if she does, you're going to get a half price item at each one of these parties. And very often the host will be like, oh, I'll get her book. Oh, yeah. And then the host gets on her, not me. And the other thing is, another thing about booking in or closing, within a couple of days, with those people who are leads, booking leads, you can say to them, okay, can I call you in the next day or 2? Because I'm going to be closing out with Jessica on Tuesday, and I really want her to get booking credit. This is someone who says, I'd love to have a party. I can't pick a date tonight. I don't know my work schedule, whatever. So now I say, can I call you? Do you have a few minutes at your lunch tomorrow, or do you have some time tomorrow evening that we can touch base just real quickly to get a date, just so Jessica gets credit? Now, they don't know me that well, but they love the host. They want the host to get credit. So they're like, oh, yeah, you can call me tomorrow. And they want to pick out that date because they want their host not to miss out on that booking credit. It is amazing. They don't really even know what the booking credit is, but like, well, you want Jessica to get credit. And you're like, yeah. I'm going to get credit. They don't even know what it means, but they want their host to get it. So, all right. And the other thing is that, oh my goodness, I don't even think I mentioned this, but we're supposed to be talking about the business opportunity throughout this process as well. Most people, how many of you said no to the Pampered Chef business opportunity the first time someone mentioned it to you? Said no thanks. Okay, you're not alone. Most people say no the first 3 times. So if you're only offering it to your host once, you're probably just going to get no's. So you want to be bringing it up a couple of times. And it doesn't mean we have to beat people over the head or twist their arms about it. Usually the first time they bring it up is when I hand them the packet and I'm walking them through the packet. And all I say is, oh, by the way, there's a little brochure in here that has information about the business. Most people who become consultants are hosts first. I'm not sure if this is anything you've ever thought about, but, I invite you to just look it over, and we're going to be talking before your party, a couple times before your party. And the next time we talk, I'll ask you if you've had a chance to read through it and see if you want information. How does that sound to you, Jessica?
Sounds good.
Okay, so Jessica says, okay, fine. If she's interested, Jessica will probably tell me right then and there she's interested.
Right.
Sometimes they go, okay, fine, I'll maybe read through that. And sometimes they go, yeah, I don't think that's for me. And I say, that's okay, it might not be. But you know what? You might just look it over anyway, because you never know who might need extra income. And I was a referral, so believe me, you might hand it to someone else and change their life forever. Then usually between call number 1 and 2, there's something, I just looked for something that about that person that might make them a great consultant. So Jessica, you said you didn't, and Lisa, you said you guys didn't have trouble at all coming up with a nice big long list of people to invite to your party. Right. So if that were the case, I might say on call number 2, Jessica, if you had a big long list of people to invite, I'd say, now Jessica, I would talk all about the host coaching, and then I'd say, and by the way, remember when we first met, I gave you that packet, I told you there's some information there about the business. Let me tell you, very often the people who do the best are the ones who know a ton of people, because guess what? Success in this business is not about talent. It's about numbers. And if you have people who want to have shows, it doesn't even matter if you know much about the products. If you just show up with a food chopper, someone's going to buy one. And oh my gosh, you know so many people. Are you all thinking about, extra income? Could that help you at all? Are you interested at all in learning more about this? I'm not saying do you want to sign, because you don't know enough to decide that. I'm saying this is something you'd like to discuss. Most of the time they go, I don't think so. I go, okay, well, let me know if you change your mind. Okay, so now here we are at your party, and now you've got $650 in sales. You've got 2 bookings, maybe a third. And you're looking at potentially, you've got these other 4 people to follow up with. So you're looking at like, I can have a $700 or $800 party. And now I look at you and I say, Jessica, I know when we talked about it before that you said that you weren't really curious to learn more about the business. But I'm wondering if maybe now that you think, oh my gosh, I have all these friends who want to have parties. And Jessica, do you know if you had done this party that so far your income would be about $130 for just the few hours that I've been here tonight? So I just felt like I wanted to just offer you one more chance at maybe learning a little bit more about the business. No pressure, just information. What do you think? Now, do you think at this point a lot of people change their minds and say, yeah, maybe I'll learn more about it now? They do a lot of times. A lot of times they're thinking, I can't see myself doing this. But when their family and friends are going gaga over the products, when their family and friends are booking, now it's a completely different beast. Now they're like, oh, my people love this. And when they see what people buy and they hear how much they would have made, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's not just pin money. If this party closes out at $800 in sales, you'd be looking at about $170 worth of income. And I've had people look at me and say, after daycare costs, I don't bring that home in a week. And I go, I know. That's why a lot of moms do this. Want to talk? So you do want to bring it up a few times. You don't have to be pressuring them. You don't have to be twisting their arms. If they've said no to me, I recognize that and I say it. I know you told me no before, but because of this, and this, I just wanted to just give you one more chance just in case you've changed your mind. Now, if the answer is still no, do you feel pressured by that? When I've recognized that I've heard what you said, but just because these other things happened, I wanted to see if maybe you changed your mind. And if you say, no, I haven't, and I go, oh, okay. Are you thinking, oh, I can't believe she pressured me. I can't believe she asked again. No, I don't think anybody thinks that. Nobody reacts that way. They're just like, oh, no, I still don't want it. Oh, and that's fine. But a lot of them do change their minds. So you do want to kind of bring that up.
One of the things that did it for me was Erin had me like help her out at my party, and she, you know what I mean? Even that. And she was like, just like, whatever. And I'm naturally loud and talkative anyway. And she's like, you'd be so good at this. Like, yeah, whatever. And then everyone was like, oh yeah, you would. And I'm like, no. And then one of my best friends had a party and Erin did that one, and same thing happened. And then, so after twice of hearing that, and then I like following up with outside orders. I'd shoot her an email and she'd be like, she'd send me back one being like, oh, are you sure? Like, I can't talk you into this because you would be so good at it. And it was like she planted a seed there that I'd never even, I was like, no, I'm not even interested.
That's perfect. And I'm so glad she reinvited you. And aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, and you can see that you didn't think, oh, I can't believe she's asking me this again. You're
not at all.
Maybe there's something to this.
Yeah. Because, again, and it's funny because maybe the first couple times that she did ask, I was not really looking for anything extra. And then sort of like things change too.
Right.
And like I also babysit during the day when I'm home with my kids. And one of the moms in the meantime was like, oh yeah, well, we're going to start, we're going to back down a day. And so like when she asked me the third time, it also happened to be at a time where I was like, well, wait a minute, I could use a little more income.
And you know what? That's a really great lesson is we have repeat customers. We have repeat hosts. Just because you ask them one time,
right?
A month ago or 2 months ago or 6 months ago doesn't mean their life hasn't changed and that they might reconsider. And that seed that you planted is now like, of course I should do this. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
And I think one of the other things too is, for me, I'm not a huge risk taker. So it was like, I don't want to get into anything that I have a huge risk. And it's like $159.
Yeah.
And I try it for 30 days. If I decide I don't like it, I end up with $600 worth of products. I'm like, I can make that investment.
It's a bigger risk not to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly
and
right.
I think that's what makes it so easy for people to give the business a try. And that's why, like I said, some people are going to try it out and it might not be their thing. I've never, ever had anybody say to me, I wish you never told me about Pampered Chef. It was the worst thing I ever did.
Right.
People who try it out and decide it's not their thing, none of them are ever sorry they did it.
Right.
Nobody loses money. And I tell them, because we start with family and friends and we get referrals, I'm not going to bamboozle these people. I'm not going to lie to them. They know where to find me,
Right.
And these are friends of friends. And, I would never, So, yep. So bring that up a few times and make sure before you close the party, another natural way to bring it up is the kit credit. I know you said no before, but I just wanted to let you know this was an option in case that makes a difference for you. I wanted to just invite you again to see if you wanted to learn anything more about the business. Okay. Then when you close out the party, I had a consultant on my team for 4 months. She was driving back to the host house to close out the party. Know that you can do that right over the phone. And actually, I just learned that a host can go on there and do her entire order, half price and 60% off items and everything right on the website. I didn't know they could do that. I think that's a recent change. So you can do it right. Everything can be right online or at the worst over the phone, they can give you those orders. Now, when it comes to commissionable sales, we make money off of what the guests buy. We don't make any commission off of the host's 60% off or half off items or free stuff. We don't make commission off of what the past host gets at half price. But we do make commission off of what the current host buys with that unlimited discount, the one that's up to a 30% off. So a great way to increase your show average is when the host coaching doesn't stop until the very end. When I'm reviewing with the host, her host rewards, I tell her about her free stuff, her half price items, or 60% off items. And then I say, by the way, you've got this unlimited discount that you can apply, like unlimited shopping spree. Like when you go to Kohl's and you get that 25% off your entire order coupon, you've got that now with the Pampered Chef, and you've got it this one time only. So I tell my hosts, you might want to think beyond your own kitchen here, okay? So it's March. If there are any birthdays coming up in your family, if you've got any weddings or graduations, Mother's Day, Father's Day, we've got great grilling tools, anything like that. It's all going to be delivered to your door at a discount this one time. So, and a lot of times I go, ooh. And if every host buys 2 or 3 gifts with her discount, I mean, over a month's worth of shows, even if it's just $50 worth of gifts, times 8 shows. How much is that? It's an extra $400 in sales. Okay, so so tell your host about that, and your host's going to be glad too, because she's going to be like, "Sweet, I just got everything taken care of. Didn't have to go out, go to the mall, find a spot, fight the traffic, and all that kind of thing." So so that is host coaching in kind of a big nutshell. There are some things that we offer that you can take advantage of if you'd like. You can, in the beginning, sometimes you have hosts who are not particularly receptive because they might not have booked because they were excited and just went to a party. They might have booked because you called them up and said, "Hey, listen, will you just do this one little thing for me?" And they might be like, "Oh, okay." So they might be a little less than excited. And you might feel like, "Oh, this is my aunt. I can't coach my aunt. It's just too crazy. It's like I just can't handle that dynamic." So if you want, you can call your director and say, "I'd really love to hear how you do a host coaching call. Can we do a 3-way call? And can you coach my aunt? Because I just can't even fathom doing that myself." So if you have someone, give us your toughest host. Give us the one you think is going to be the toughest one to coach. And we will happily take that on for you. Because we can't prejudge because we don't know these people. So we're just going to coach and coach and coach, and they'll take some ideas and they'll ignore some others, but they'll usually be at least polite to us. So you can tell them it's part of your training to do this 3-way call because it's how you're going to learn to work with your host before your show. So if you'd like to take advantage of that, we're here to help you do that. And then, like I said, there is additional host coaching training. But I think if you just take this checklist, mark it up with some of the ideas that you heard tonight that you want to run with, and then just use this. And it is okay when you're calling someone who's got an upcoming show and they're your friend or whatever, and you say, "Okay, I've got this checklist of stuff that I want to make sure I've covered everything with you. So I've got this checklist." It's okay to be reading off the paper. I still have this checklist in front of me. And when I'm talking to my host, like I forget. I have said so much of this stuff so many times, I forget who I said it to. And so sometimes I'll say, "Let me just look at my list. I want to make sure I covered everything." Okay, we did that, we did that, we did that. Oh, I forgot about this. So really, I do that same thing. And it's okay. So don't feel like you have to be smooth as silk, or don't feel like you can't let them know you're reading off a list. I think you know by now, we just have lists and cheat sheets for everything. And that includes the host coaching too. All right, so let me see. Woo, not bad. Exactly an hour and a half, which is what I was hoping. I'm first, does anybody have any questions, burning questions, or something that needs clarification that you heard that I covered tonight?
No.
So I think I'm good.
All right. Any like what's your favorite thing that you heard tonight that just kind of like, ooh, I love that idea?
A lot of good ideas.
A lot of good ideas. You got a whole page, a couple pages.
I do. I have my notes.
Okay, very good. Very good.
I like the idea of I never really thought about it, but like obviously the bring a friend, like I guess I was just kind of thinking of that as like extra people to buy stuff, but I never really thought about it as, extending the reach.
Yes.
And so that gives me more of an incentive to promote that.
Absolutely. It's going to help you build that bridge between the people you know and the great beyond. And those are the people most likely to book. So good. How about you, Lisa? What's the most impactful thing you heard tonight?
I don't know. I think for me, I was forgetting to try to upsell like the host at the end. Oh. So, like I'm forgetting about Mother's Day and Father's Day coming up, and and I've had numerous opportunities to to upsell, and I didn't.
That's okay. You're still early on. There's plenty of shows. Yeah. And like I said, they don't often think of it, but as soon as we mention it, they're like, "Oh yeah." And so I mentioned. I tell them. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I can think of probably 3 of my hosts that probably would have bought more had I mentioned that, Yeah. So.
Yep. And so I tell them that when we're at their party and I'm showing where they are so far and I get to that unlimited discount, that way we're going to close 2 days later. So she's got plenty of time to be thinking about all those things that she's got coming up. And
Yeah.
like I said, a lot of them are like, woohoo. I had someone who had a show one February and got 2 sets of cookware at half off that were going to be Christmas presents for the following fall because I had given her that idea. Talk about
wow. That's
yeah. Like, wow. So, okay. So, I guess I can stop the recording.